using a VPN to connect through the dial-up network to your office. Specify the second option, click on next. Again, you have a dial-up connection or a VPN. Here we specify in VPN because we are not using a dial-up connection. Company name, you can type in whatever you want. Say I'll type in Cisco Test Lab. You click on next. This will say what are the connections already established, and automatically dial. I'm just going to select do not dial the initial connection, and I want us to manually connect instead of automatic dialing. Now this is going to be asking you for the IP address of the LNS to which to connect to. Here in our case, the LNS is the ASA, so I have to put in here the IP address of the ASA, which we saw earlier, which was 30.1.1.10. Click on next. My use only, doesn't matter, and finish. Now you can see here there is a new network or a virtual private network which is present here. Now let's get into it, and it's not done yet. I mean, if I click my username and if I select my username and password, it should not work. Connecting, and by now it should have connected, but it's still waiting for the connection to time out. Well, this won't work because I have not configured any of the L2TP settings or the IPSEC settings. We've just created the VPN, but VPN network, but we haven't configured it yet. So I'm going to click cancel, and let's configure that by heading to properties. So you can see that the host name of the destination is correct. This is the ASA IP address. Let's head into the next tab of options. Options is also fine. You can maybe change the redial attempts if you wanna. I prefer to keep this as it is because I'm not much of a Windows server guy. I'm just going to leave it here. Security. Okay, here's where you need to configure. Now, typically there are some default parameters. You just click on advanced, go to settings, and say you have many options here. Require encryption. This is the IPSEC settings, where you have to specify that if you really want a secure network, you have to say require encryption, and if encryption doesn't come up, then disconnect. Don't connect it if encryption doesn't come up. So select that option and select the protocols that you want to use for authenticating the client to the ASA. You have many options in PPP. You have PAP, CHAP, SPAP. You have MSCHAP and MSCHAP v2. This is MSCHAP v1. Now, I have checked MSCHAP v and MSCHAP v2. By default, I think it takes the more secure option. I'm not sure. So this is fine. So these are our PPP settings which you have configured here. You click on OK. That's fine. And then this is the PPP settings, and here you go into the IPSEC settings, and you configure the pre-shared key. Remember, after the PPP, you should also configure the IPSEC pre-shared key, which is going to be used to build the IPSEC tunnel. If you remember correctly, the ISAKIMP key which I had configured there was Cisco 123. So I'm just going to go ahead and type that in here, and that's configured. So we've configured the PPP settings, we've configured the IPSEC settings. Let's send it to the next tab. Now the type of VPN can be automatic, or for better, for ease, let's just hard-code it to L2TP over IPSEC VPN. You don't have to change the IP parameters. This gets automatically assigned by the mode configuration, which is pushed out by the ASA. So that's fine. And in the advanced configuration, you don't have to do anything. So that should do it. And so let's just test if this works. So I'm going to use my username of vibuff, and I'm going to be using a password of Cisco. Let's see if this connects. Alright, verifying username and password. Okay, it's not connecting because I think it's trying to use MSCHAP v2, and there is no, it can't fetch the identity of the client of the ASA. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to specify the connection type as MSCHAP and maybe just CHAP, and also in my ASA if I can quickly open up the ASA configuration, I'm going to be changing the authentication. Remember, in the tunnel group, I have under PPP attributes, I specified the authentication. I'm going to be adding CHAP in there, so just to see how things work. So let me head in there. PPP attributes. Let me remove this authentication ms CHAP v2 authentication with CHAP. Sorry, CHAP, and you can run ms CHAP v1. Now let's go back into the VM and see if it works this time around. Username of VibeHub, password of Cisco. Registering your computer on the network, and there you go. Cisco Test Lab is now connected. If I click here and I go to details, you can see that the device type is VPN, the server type is PPP. That means the PPP is being used between the peer and the ASA to authenticate each other. It's using an authentication of MS CHAP, and it's using an IPSEC of IPSEC and ESP triple DES. Remember, this was our transform set which we had configured on the ASA, so this is being used by the VPN client in Windows. We're using the server IP address is 30.1.1.10. This is the IP address of the ASA, and the ASA has assigned an IP of 20.1.1.1 to this client here. So this is our VPN connection, and if you remember correctly, I specified an split tunneling ACL, which basically said that any traffic going from, let me just open up my network diagram so it's a little easier for me to explain. I had set up my crypto ACL such that any traffic going from the host to the 40.1.1.0 network must be encrypted. Rest of the traffic can pass through the general internet. Only the traffic which goes to the 40.1.1.0 must pass through the IPSEC tunnel between the peer and the ASA. So the way I'm going to verify that is two-step. Firstly, I'm going to open up my ASA window, and I'm going to check the IPSEC SAS counters, where the encapsulated and the decapsulated counters can be seen here. Now, if you can see here, they aren't changing much. 20.101 to 46. So let me just head back into the VM and check if my configuration is working. So all I need to do now is ping my 40.1.1.0, or I should be able, I should ping the I should ping R1's IP of 40.1.1.1 from the client and see if those packets are getting encrypted. So just to verify, the IPSEC encapsulated count is 22 and the decapsulated count is 47. So let's head into the VM, and I'm going to do a ping 40.1.1.1. I'm not sure what the command is here. -n10? Is that it? Let's see. Okay, it says the request timed out. Let me just check the IP address of R1 and see if that's the 40.1.1.1 network. Okay, first let me do a route print and see if the routes have been installed correctly. You can see that the default gateway is the L2TP tunnel, and let's see if the IP address of R1 is in 40.1.1.1. Okay, that's 40.1.1.1, that's fine. Okay, you know what? We won't be getting a response, because if I remember correctly, the reverse route that we had set up was not propagated back to R1 using a dynamic protocol. I said we would do that later. So for now, let's just send the packets and see if the counter is increasing in the ASA counters. So at the moment it's 25. So I'm gonna send 10 packets through the network and see if the counters increase. So that's 1, that's 2, you know what, this is getting a little slow. I'm gonna stop it right here, and you can see that they're okay. There are 5 packets now. So the command should be the IPSEC tunnel packets counter should have increased by 7, should have increased by 5. There you go. You can see that the packets decaps count is increased. Oh, but wait a minute. That's not the count I was looking for. I was looking for the packet count of the packet encapsulated count should have increased. Let's run that again now. Let's run both together. Ping 40.1.1.1. Okay, you can see that the packets decaps count is increasing. I'm not sure why the encaps count is not increasing, but oh yeah, because these packets are being received from the tunnel, so the decaps counter should increase, but the encaps counter should not increase because the ASA is not going to be sending any more packets to the client because it doesn't receive anything from R1. The decaps counter increases correctly because those are the packets which are being received in the IPSEC tunnel from the peer. So that's our configuration, and our configuration is working fine. I hope you're comfortable with L2TP over IPSEC now. Please feel free to send me a message if you have any questions or doubts, and if I've gone wrong in my explanation, please feel free to correct me, and I'd really appreciate it if you did. Thanks a lot and have a great day.